Yo, what's up guys, Flip Thunder here, and welcome back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Last time we played this game, we completed the main story and defeated the Shredder. Now, we are doing the extra, modes. So we got minigame, we got time attack, and we have survival mode. Today we're gonna do survival mode.
9 out of 10 ninjas prefer survival mode.
Now, I honestly prefer the dojo, so let's go there. And I'll be playing as Leo. Yeah, so I haven't played this game in a little bit, so it might be a bit rusty. Basically, you have to survive as long as possible and defeat as many enemies as you can. Also, if you look over here, you can just barely see it, but the hole in the wall from the second area is still there when the Mousers were in the lair. So yeah, I mean, we'll just be fighting a lot. I mean, I thought I'd show it off anyway, because why not? See how far we can go.
That was totally epic.
And I have my ability, so I can pretty much kill everything in a matter of one hit. Oh, whoops, I was looking at something, and you know, so it was a Mouser. Yeah, I was actually watching some Ninja Turtles the other day, reliving my childhood, and I gotta say, I never remembered just how many funny moments there are with the Krang, because they just can't speak English correctly for the life of them. Let me just turn this volume down a bit so I can actually give commentary. Yeah, because I was watching the Cockroach Terminator episode, and one of the funniest parts of it was when, like, they were using the little cockroach to spy on the Krang, and the Krang are just casually talking about one of them being gluten-free and how he's losing weight, and like the turtles are trying to spy on them, and that's what they get, like, them just casually having a regular conversation, if you can call that regular. Yeah. And then, like, literally in that same episode, when the turtles confronted the Krang, when Leo tried to imitate the Krang's way of speaking, and he just couldn't do it, and he was like, oh, forget this, just stay right there. And Donnie was like, which do we say first, the world or the English language? That was one of the funnier moments. Like, there's a lot of great moments in this show. Like this show had, like, the right amount of comedy and action. Like, that was one of the best things about it. They never gave too much comedy, and they never had too much action either. It was like a perfect mixture of the 1987 cartoon and 2003 cartoon. And then when Rise of the TMNT came out, that one just went on full-on comedy again. And I kind of was taken aback by it. Like, I initially hated Rise of the TMNT because it just wasn't, there wasn't much action. Like, it was like it really just didn't do it for me. But now that I've watched it, I've come to sort of like it. Like, I appreciate the new characters, like the new villains they introduced. I like them. I like the new backstory of Shredder and the Krang. But I still feel like the show was too goofy, and that's why it only lasted 2 seasons, because, like, fans just did not like it. But, yeah. Honestly, I really wish, though, that they did make a season 6 of this show. Like, at least 2 more seasons. Now, granted, I know, like, some of you would probably be thinking, like, oh, well, that'd probably be the same thing Same thing as the 2003 series. They made 2 more seasons, and the last 2 seasons did terrible. But my thought process would be like, so you guys remember in the Meet Mondo Gecko episode when Fishface like lured Mikey into the sewers, and Fishface had like taken in all these rogue mutants. There was like Pizza Face, Snakeweed, Spider Bites. Like you have all these mutants that we've seen before, but they don't make like big appearances. They appear like every now and then, and it was like a little cameo. But what would have been really cool is if those mutants actually came back during season 5 for like the Cult of Shredder story arc. That way they could be like controlled or something into like working for Shredder, or Tiger Claw, I should say, because Shredder was dead at that time. And then maybe like the mutants just like, I don't know. I just feel like it would have been cool if they were like part of the Cult of Shredder arc for the beginning. And that's another thing too. Like I feel like the Cult of Shredder arc should have gone on a bit longer. Like Zombie Shredder was only in 1 episode, but I feel like they could have done more with that. Like personally, this is what I would have done if I was like creating the show. So season 5, we would have had Scroll the Demo Dragon, which would have been the first episode, of course. And then each episode, when they were trying to get a piece to resurrect Shredder, instead of it being 1 episode, it would have been 2. So like it would have taken them 2 episodes to get the Kuro Kabuto, 2 to get Shredder's heart, and then the next episode after that, Shredder would have returned. And upon Shredder returning, Tiger Claw actually starts to question where his allegiance lies in the Foot Clan after Shredder demotes him of being second in command. And at the same time, Fishface also questions it. So the turtles like go and launch an attack, but they lose, so they retreat to the lair. So that'd be 1 episode with Shredder's return. The next episode, Fishface would actually go find the turtles and become a spy. Because we saw in the End Times episode when Fishface, he just quit working for the Foot because he just couldn't deal with this crazy life anymore. I feel like they could have built more on that, having Fishface become like a spy for the turtles, giving them info on like what the cult's overall plans are. And meanwhile, Shredder wants to get revenge on all his enemies, so he plans to hunt down the mighty Mutanimals to take them out first before going after the turtles, because Shredder's thought process would be, by taking out the turtles' friends, it would in turn weaken the turtles, because all they could think about is their friends being gone. So the Mutanimals would fight against Shredder's forces along with the turtles. The turtles would win in the end, but Shredder would have a new plan. And of course, once again, Tiger Claw would be questioning his allegiance because Shredder seems to be going like a really far mile to get his revenge. And then the next episode, the cult would find the turtles' lair. And it wouldn't be Fishface. Like, Fishface is still a spy for the turtles, but the cult found the turtles' lair. So after this revelation, the turtles ultimately decide that they need to put an end to Shredder for good. So then after the cult invades the turtles' lair and kind of destroys it, we'd go into the next episode, which would in turn be End Times, with Fishface still helping the turtles, saving them from the Foot cultists, and Cavaxis betraying everybody and becoming a villain himself. But instead of Fishface leaving after rescuing the turtles, he would instead help the turtles. Like, the turtles would make a deal with Fishface. He helps them stop Cavaxis for good, and in exchange, they'll turn him human again. Because unlike most mutants, Fishface, when he was mutated, he didn't get stronger. He got way weaker. So they would make a deal with Fishface. We're like, you help us, and we'll give you your old life back. So Fishface will help the turtles stop Cavaxis, Zombie Shredder, and Razar. And just like in the episode, Tiger Claw would also help them. And then become a good guy. And that would be like the Cult of Shredder story arc. And then after the whole Cult of Shredder thing, then we would go into the Usagi Yojimbo trilogy. Except after they deal with Jay, and he supposedly dies, the turtles will learn that Jay actually managed to get to their dimension, somehow. Like, I don't know how he would, but he'd get to their dimension. So there'd be 2 more episodes where Usagi and Kintaro would go to the Turtles' dimension to help stop Jay. And then they would, of course, ultimately defeat Jay once and for all. And then we would get to the When Worlds Collide thing with Lord Dreg coming to Earth. Mona Lisa would remain on Earth after all that. Neutralizer would be destroyed. But unlike When Worlds Collide happened, after the ship explodes, we learn that Dreg is actually still alive. And he's staying on Earth now for revenge against the Turtles and Mona Lisa. Sal Commander already left because he did in the episode, so he'd still be gone. But Dreg would remain on Earth hunting the Turtles. But what Dreg would do is those mutants that were working with the Cult of Shredder, after like the whole Cult of Shredder thing, they kind of just like vanished. Dreg would recruit them to become his servants. Because like Spider Bites he's not an insect, but he's an arachnid. So he would join Dreg's forces, along with Snakeweed, Pizza Face, and then Stockman's new mutants from the Insecta Trifecta episode, Scumbug and Anthrax. They would also join Dreg's forces. And a new character, which would be a Robug that somehow managed to come in contact with some mutagen. And that would be Dreg's forces, basically trying to get revenge on the Turtles. But what the Turtles don't realize is that when Dreg's ship exploded, similar to the 2003 series, this like kind of alien ooze like scattered all over New York, which is causing humans to kind of like mutate. And the mutations are kind of like an outbreak. Basically like the 2003 show when Agent Bishop accidentally unleashed a virus all over New York. It'd be like that story arc, but instead of being Agent Bishop, it would be Dreg who'd be responsible. And after the Turtles find a way to cure it, Dreg, they'd have like a final battle with Dreg and basically defeat him once and for all. And they would turn the mutants back into humans as well. And basically that would be all of season 6. So it'd be like half Cult of Shredder. It'd be like half Cult of Shredder, and then it would be half Dreg's story arc, and then the Usagi Yojimbo episodes happening like right in the middle of the season. I mean, like, Dreg could realistically stay on Earth during the final season as well, during season 7, which my idea for the 7th season would be, at first, it would start off with the Wanted Bebop and Rocksteady special. That'd be the season 7 premiere in my alternate season. So that way Bebop and Rocksteady could return and they can become good guys, because they became good at the end of that special. So they become good, and they would join forces with Tiger Claw and Alopex, who have created their own little new mutant team as well. Basically like the Mighty Mutanimals, but instead it's a group of reformed villains. Except for Fishface, because he's turned human again. And so yeah, it would start off with Wanna Be About Rocksteady, and then it would go into a new story arc where we learn that Razar is actually still alive, and he's out for revenge. Because when the Cult of Shredder thing happened, Razar was the only henchman to Shredder who didn't betray Shredder. Fishface helped the Turtles, so he betrayed Shredder. Bebop and Rocksteady flat out ran away, and then became good guys in the end. So they also betrayed Shredder. And Tiger Claw fought back against Shredder willingly because he realized that Shredder was just pure evil. But Razar was the only henchman to Shredder who did not turn against him in any way, shape, or form. So Razar would basically find Baxter Stockman, and they'd be working together to form an ultimate plan of vengeance against the Turtles. So that'd be kind of like that little thing. So there'd be like some new mutants and stuff for like a few episodes and whatnot. Like I don't really know like what would happen. That's just kind of like my idea where like Razar and Stockman are kind of like an unlikely duo because we all know that Bradford never liked Stockman. Like he always called him Stinkman. So he never really liked him. So it'd be kind of like an unlikely alliance. But because Stockman's mad at the Turtles for turning him human again, he's helping Razar. And then like maybe like in the middle of the season or something like that is when the Monsters versus Mutants story arc happens with like Savanti Romero coming back and Renette and them working together to fight Dracula and all that. So yeah. And then the ending of season 7, like the final stories kind of, Razar and Stockman, they're still causing havoc, but after like a dimensional disturbance happens that Donnie gets word of, he finds out because we saw in Transdimensional Turtles, Krang Subprime is still alive, and he's in the Prime Turtle reality. So in the final story arc of the season, we find out that Krang Subprime has escaped and is coming back. Now, Krang Prime is still dead. Like, the Triceratons killed him. But, Krang Subprime's still very much alive. He's just in hiding because he was banished to another dimension. So, he's managed to escape that dimension and is coming back to get revenge on the Turtles. And he's built, like, a cloning device so he can, like, clone himself and basically create his own army of Krang droids without having to mind control innocent Utrom. Because even though Krang Prime is dead and the Utrom have been turned back into Krang, I mean, the Krang have been turned back into Utrom, Subprime is still going to be... Because, like, Krang Subprime betrayed the Utrom willingly. He didn't fall victim to Krang Prime's mind control. So, Subprime is now basically the new Krang Prime and wants revenge. So, he's starting, like, an invasion on New York. So, the Turtles would have to get all their allies together, consisting of, like, the Mutanimals, a bunch of mutants that they've worked with before, like Muckman, and maybe the Punk Frogs would find a way to come back into this. I'm not sure. Sir Malachi, he was a pretty cool character who appeared once. And then they would also team up with their enemies, or rather former enemies, like Tiger Claw, Bebop, and Rocksteady. But they would also join forces with Razar, because Razar doesn't want anything to do with the Krang. He wants his own form of revenge, and by the Krang invading, they're ruining his plans. So Razar and Stockman would have no choice but to join forces with the Turtles. So the Turtles have this whole army together, along with, of course, like the Utrom, Karai and her new Foot Clan, and one final ally, Zeno, the only Triceraton who is a good guy, because when the Triceraton mothership blew up, we never saw what happened to Zeno. So my way of bringing him back would be Zeno broke out of his cell, like, just minutes before Fugitoid blew the mothership up, and he managed to steal a teleporter and beam down to Earth. But because he was severely weakened by being tortured by the Triceratons, he had to stay in hiding for a long time. But after hearing that the Krang are coming back, or rather Subprime is, with his army of cloned Krang, he has to come out of the shadows to help the Turtles in a huge final battle. So Subprime now has an army of Krang clones, and it's basically the Turtles for, like, the finale. It's the Turtles and all their allies fighting against Subprime and his massive army of Krang. Of course, they would win in the end, and everything would go back to normal, sort of, kind of. And Razar and Stockman, they wouldn't really become good guys, but they don't cause too much evil anymore. But the Turtles would still be fighting against them and stuff, and that'd be kind of like the end of the show. And then, of course, then we would have the Mutant Apocalypse and the alternate timeline of episodes with that whole hoopla. And then finally, of course, the Lone Rat and Cubs episode, where we find out how it's all started in the first place, with Master Splinter first being mutated. And that's my ideas for how Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012 could have had a 6th and 7th season. Obviously, no show can go on forever, so it couldn't really have gone on more than that. But I do feel like there was some potential where they could have, in some way, um, continued the show, at least for a bit longer. Heck, maybe there could have been an episode 2, like just a random filler episode where they managed to find a way to turn Pulverizer human again, because he got mutated, and they never did save him. He kind of just stayed mutated in a jar for like the rest of the show. So it would have been cool to see him finally get his closure and like finally become human again. And maybe even Donnie rebuilding Metalhead. I know he sort of did in the Mutant Apocalypse episodes, but it doesn't really feel the same because it was Donnie in Metalhead's body. So it doesn't exactly feel the same with Mutant Apocalypse with Metalhead coming back, but he sort of did, I guess. But yeah, I feel like I was doing a lot of talking there, like talking about what I would have done. But I mean, hey, it's good commentary, I guess, like talking about what I would have done to continue the show while doing survival mode, because like I'm literally just fighting a bunch of enemies. So it's good. Good commentary, I'd say. But that's honestly all I really have for commentaries. Now I just gotta kind of come up with things to talk about on the fly. But like this really isn't hard at all. Like survival mode's pretty easy. You just gotta survive. Honestly, the hardest part about survival mode is maintaining your allies' health too. It's not really your health. It's more so your allies' health, because they're the ones who are actually in danger. One thing I don't like though is that the pizza to heal my health can for some reason spawn outside of the places I can go. Like it went down this way, but I can't go down any further. Dang, I just beat up 3 Darkfoot soldiers on my own. Honestly, Mikey needs this health. Just heal him back up. Actually, I've actually started watching the 2003 version of Ninja Turtles recently. It's pretty good. It's definitely different than most Ninja Turtles iterations. Like the 1987 one, it was more lighthearted, didn't really have too many villains. From what I've seen anyway, like the only villains I know of in the 1987 one were Shredder and Krang and Bebop and Rocksteady and Lord Dreg. Unless there was others, correct me if I'm wrong. But the 2003 one definitely went somewhere different with the Turtles finding out that the Shredder they were fighting from seasons 1 through 3 was actually an Utrom in, like, a criminal Utrom in just a regular human body. Like, that was definitely something that I was not expecting. Like, I mean, granted, I already knew that was a thing because I just heard about it, but it was still quite a twist that I don't think anybody saw coming. Like, who would have thought that the Shredder was actually an alien? And I do like that route of Shredder, where, like, rather than him being a human, he's actually something else. Something unique. And then, of course, you've got Agent Bishop, who's kind of like a corrupt government agent who wants to take out the Turtles, which was another cool thing. Like, that's definitely different. Like, rather than it being aliens or something, it's actually a regular human who, like, works for the government in the United States of America who's trying to take out the Turtles. That's definitely a pretty high-level threat, I'd say. And the fact that his base of operations is literally Area 51 is even more bonkers. So that was definitely a fun little villain. But like I said, I feel like the 2012 version definitely is the best one because it has the perfect amount of goofiness and action. But the 2003 show definitely has some pretty good action in it too. A lot of action moments. especially in the finale of season 5 when the turtles work together with all their enemies and allies to fight the demon shredder. That was pretty cool, which is kind of why I had the idea in like my alternate season 7 where the same thing happened, but against Krang Subprime and his army of cloned Utrom. And like maybe like some cloned Krang devices as well. Because like why not? It'd be cool to see like an army, because like the 2012 versions of Ninja Turtles, they had so many allies and enemies that could work together with them. So it would have been really cool if like they worked together with all of those people to fight against a common enemy. And who else would be a common enemy to everybody than the Krang? But yeah. And then there was also the Turtles Forever crossover from the 2003 show, which was pretty cool, seeing the 1987 and 2003 Turtles working together from like alternate universes. Honestly, it'd be cool if the 2012 Turtles got that kind of treatment as well, having like a crossover with other Turtles. Wait, no, they did. Never mind. They teamed up with the 1987 ones. I completely forgot about that, actually. Never mind, I take back that statement. I think Raph's stuck behind the tree over there. But yeah. Oh, that's new dialogue. And I don't think I've ever heard that one before. The enemies will soon be obliterated. New Krang dialogue confirmed. I'm honestly not sure how long this video will go on for. I'm just kind of surviving as long as I can. Because like it's survival mode, so you gotta go on for as long as possible. So I'm probably just gonna keep fighting until like we lose all our lives. Or at least till I get bored. Because I don't know if there's a max. Like, does it stop eventually? Like when you get to like 50 or something? I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. If there is, I might do all 3 stages then. Maybe. I mean, then again, like, it's the same thing, so do I really need to? I think this is actually the medium stage. Like, the fish face stage is pretty small, and then the dojo, like this one we're in, it's pretty big. And then the Shredder's lair is just huge. So I think, like, each 3 of the stages varies depending on how big it is. Like, depending on the size, you have to survive more waves. I think that's how it works. But yeah, like, if you guys want to, comment down below and let me know if you guys liked my ideas for, the alternate seasons 6 and 7 of TMNT 2012. I personally like it. And plus, too, like, it also goes on without Shredder. Because, like, the thing with the 2012 show is that, like, this is one of the things that I kind of noticed about it as well. So, the 1987 show, like, I think it was, like, in season 7 or something, when Shredder stopped being the villain. Or, like, he didn't stop being the villain, but, like, he wasn't as consistent of a villain. And instead, he was successed by Lord Dreg. And the show kept going on even after Shredder stopped being the villain. Like, it continued. And then the 2003 show, the Shredder that the Turtles were fighting in seasons 1 through 3, he wasn't the villain anymore in season 4 and 5. He left. He got banished to another like place or something. But the show, once again, it continued without Shredder. And then, granted, season 5, we had a new Shredder in the 2003 version. But it wasn't the same Shredder. But with the 2012 show, as soon as Shredder died in the season 4 finale, it didn't really continue much further. Like, we had a season 5, but that was just, like, extra. Like, the season 5 that we got for the 2012 series, it was basically like a bunch of side missions. It wasn't a lot, and it wasn't even as long of a season, which is kind of something that I kind of don't like about the 2012 show. Like, the 2012 show really relied on the Turtles' rivalry with the Shredder. And like after Shredder was defeated, it didn't really continue on much longer, unlike the previous 2 series that came before it. And I feel like it really could have gone on without Shredder. Like, it did for 1 season, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like it could have gone on. Like, even though Shredder was gone, he didn't need to be there. He could have very easily still died, and the show could have still kept going on. And that's the thing with Rise of the TMNT. The Rise of the TMNT show, despite its flaws, it definitely took a strong stand for itself by not even having a Shredder for most of the show. Like, Rise of the TMNT, you had Baron Draxum, who kind of acted like Shredder, but he was kind of like a mixture of Shredder and the Krang. Like, he was a big bad like Shredder, but he also mutated things like the Krang did. And then you had, like, the Rogue Mutants and stuff, and the Foot Clan, who were, like, gathering pieces of the Dark Armor to revive the real Shredder. But Shredder didn't show up until the Season 1 finale. And then in the Season 2 premiere, he instantly lost and was gone again. So Rise of the TMNT, despite, its flaws, it takes a strong stand for itself for not having Shredder. Like, Shredder came back in the finale, and they kind of took him down pretty easily because their powers they have in that show. But it was still interesting. Like, I will give the show credit for that. It managed to go on its own without Shredder. Despite, the road it went down wasn't really the best, it still managed to do it. Which is why I think the 2012 show, it could have gone on, like, a little bit longer, even though Shredder was gone. Like, yeah, Shredder was defeated, but the show could have still continued without him. Like, you didn't need Shredder. But I feel like they kind of ran out of villains towards the end. Like, in Season 5, they did bring back some past villains. Like, they brought back Lord Drag. They brought back Savanti Romero. But despite bringing them back, they weren't there for really long. Like, once the Krang were defeated in the 2012 show, they really relied heavily on Shredder and his evil plans. And I feel like that's kind of where the show started to fall, was that it relied too much on Shredder. And once he died, they had no choice but to end it. But I feel like if they had kept other villains around longer, it wouldn't have fallen. Like, the show would have probably managed to continue for a couple more seasons. Like, they still could have had their Tales of the TMNT with, like, their side stories, but they could have had a bigger story happening at the same time. I feel like. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I'm sure there's a lot of 2012 Ninja Turtles fans out there, and just Ninja Turtles fans in general, who would either agree or disagree with me. But who knows? You guys can let me know in the comments if you guys agree. If this video even gets a lot of views, because my videos are not that popular, so who knows? I mean, at the time of this recording anyway, they're not that popular, so who knows how many people will watch this video. I mean, I hope people do at least watch this video so they can give me their opinions in the comments, because I am curious what other people think. Like, would they have wanted the 2012 show to continue? Do they not want it to continue? Because, like, sure, I'm sure the 2012 team was probably worried about continuing the show longer because of what happened with the 2003 show, with season 6 and 7 of that show just completely doing awful. But I still feel like they could have at least taken the chance, or just simply written it in a decent way where they wouldn't have had to worry about that. Like, the writers of the 2012 show did a really good job with the story. They didn't have to worry about, like, people not liking their stories, because that show had great storylines. Like, the whole rivalry between Splinter and Shredder throughout the whole show, it was definitely something you could really feel. And like all the lies and deception that Shredder told Karai, like it was pretty intense show. And like they didn't really have to worry much. Like if they were worried that making more seasons would hurt the show, then I don't know what the heck's going on, because they had nothing to worry about. They were great at writing episodes. Like, I don't think there was one episode of the 2012 show that I didn't like. Like, every episode was pretty good. Like, there were some moments in the show that I didn't like. Granted, I can't really think of one off the top of my head, because I just liked the show a lot more than I disliked it. But, like, every episode was great. Every episode was either really funny, really action-packed, and it really made you feel for the characters. Like, when Splinter saw his daughter get mutated into a snake, you could see, like, the fear in his eyes and, like, sadness, because, like, he just got his daughter back from Shredder, and now he lost her again. Like, it really was an intense moment in the show. And then, like, when the Turtles had to flee from New York in Season 2 after the Krang invaded, like, that was another moment that moment hit me hard. Like, the show had great moments. So, overall, I'd say there was no episode that I didn't like. Like, trying to think, what was an episode that I didn't really like? I don't know. I mean, I guess the episode in Season 4, The Weird World of Worm, that episode was kind of weird, so I guess that one's probably one of the ones in the lower end of the list. Like, it still had pretty good moments. Like, it showed how Casey Jones could actually be a pretty smart guy. The Turtles just kind of, like, always think of him as, like, a dumb person, but he can be pretty smart, as shown in that episode. So, like, it gave Casey some time to shine, so I can't really say I don't like it. What are some other episodes? I don't know, honestly. I mean, I guess the episodes with Pulverizer were kind of... I mean, they weren't really bad. I feel like they were kind of just cringy, because Pulverizer was not really a great character. Like, he was a pretty cringy character. Like, for those of you who don't know, Pulverizer was basically a fan of the Ninja Turtles. He dressed up in a turtle costume and kind of like wanted to be a hero like the Turtles, but the Turtles didn't really take him seriously. Like, even Mikey didn't really like him because he was just kind of always in the way. Like, he only appeared in 3 episodes, 2 of which he was human. Like, the first episode he appeared in, he kind of just was a nuisance. The second episode he appeared in was an improvement, but once again, he was dumb because he got himself mutated intentionally because he thought he'd become a hero and didn't heed Donnie's warning when he told him the mutagen will turn you into something bad, and he didn't listen. So it was hard to feel bad for Pulverizer in that moment because Donnie told him twice, like, the mutagen is dangerous. That stuff could hurt you, but he didn't listen. And then the third time he appeared was when he was hunting April as a mutant because Donnie told Pulverizer how he felt about April. So, like, every episode Pulverizer was in was just not really the best, but again, Pulverizer was a memorable character in the end because every time you're in Donnie's lab, you just see him in the corner, frozen solid in that jar, and you just think back like, man, that poor guy. So, I guess those episodes are kind of on the lower scale again. Trying to think of some episodes. I can't think of any. I'm like thinking back to like all the episodes I can think off the top of my head, but none of them are really bad, I'd say. Like, again, like this just further proves my point. Like, this show was just that amazing that there was never really any bad moments. It was just a good show all the time. Like, the writers of this show knew what the heck they were doing. They never really made a bad episode. Like, I can't really think of an episode I didn't like. Raph and Mikey are about to die. Yeah, I can't think of any episodes that I didn't like. I mean, I guess the episode Eyes of the Chimera wasn't really that. I mean, like, it was a good episode, like seeing April be mentally connected to a mutant, but it wasn't anything crazy good. Yeah, that's really all I got as far as bad episodes go. I will say one episode though that I really kind of don't like watching of this show, because like it's not that it's bad, it's really kind of creepy if anything. Buried Secrets from season 3, when the turtles like they're staying at the farmhouse because this was after the Krang invasion, so they had to flee from New York. So they're at the farmhouse in the woods, and they found out April has a basement in her house. So they go into that basement and find what they think is April's mother, who's been missing since the beginning of the show. But then we find out that it was actually some sort of like creature that the Krang created, and it was kind of freaky stuff. Like the way its face like peeled back to reveal this like purplish alien thing, and like how it was like turning the turtles like slowly one by one into creatures. It was some pretty freaky stuff. And the sounds that the thing makes, I'm never gonna get those sounds out of my head. So yeah, that was definitely a creepy episode. Like that's the thing about the woods episodes. I feel like those episodes really had some of the creepier aspects. Like there was the episode Within the Woods where they were basically fighting Jason Voorhees. I mean, they weren't literally fighting Jason Voorhees, but the villain was inspired by Jason Voorhees. Like he had like a little sack over his face, and then he stole Casey's hockey mask, and he was like capturing them and putting them in a shack one by one. So that was a pretty freaky episode. There was actually also a Freddy Krueger inspired episode when the turtles were trapped in their dreams and they were like being attacked by these evil beavers. They were called dream beavers, which kind of remind me of the dream demons from Nightmare on Elm Street, which basically they basically wanted to kill the turtles in their dreams so that way they would die in real life. Basically like Freddy Krueger. I think Robert Englund actually voice acted one of them. I could be wrong though. But yes, that was definitely a creepy episode. There was Race with a Demon, where a car actually mutated, which was the first time an animate object actually mutated in the show. Normally it was always living beings merging with like objects, but this time a car actually mutated on its own. So that was definitely an interesting episode. Wasn't really creepy though, but it was a good episode. So yeah, pretty established that when they were at the woods, that definitely had the more horror movie aspect characters. Other than that though, there weren't really many creepy episodes. Like honestly, like if you came to me and asked me to rewatch any Ninja Turtles episode from the 2012 show, I would definitely enjoy it. Like I said, there's not a bad episode. This show just, I love it. I don't know if it's because of nostalgia or because I'm biased or something, but I don't think there's a bad episode. So, like, if you came up to me and told me to watch any episode, I would not have a problem with it at all. Be pretty chill about it. I do think, though, that my favorite villain's probably the Krang, because the Krang have some of the most funniest dialogues in, like, the whole show. because they don't know how to speak English correctly. So this when they try to speak English, it never comes out right, which is one of the funniest parts about the show. Like seeing the Krang like try to learn how to speak, but they're always like 2 sentences behind. So yeah. I also like it too when the turtles try to imitate the Krang. Like I mentioned the Cockroach Terminator episode already, but another one was in the TCRI episode when the turtles first learned that the Krang's secret base was TCRI the whole time, and Leo imitates the Krang. Like he wasn't standing face to face with the Krang, but he was talking to April and Splinter, and he was like he tried to imitate the Krang. It was pretty funny because like they were discussing a plan. I forget what were they talking about. Oh yeah, April brought the blueprints to the turtles on TCRI, and she said how the bottom 2/3 of the building are just like normal office building, and Leo tried to imitate the Krang talking to humans who work in an office building, and he went like, "The ones who are working for this place must punch the card that is known as the time card in the clock that is known as the clock of time." And like it was hilarious because that is literally how the Krang talk. Like they they just can't say anything correctly. And it was just so funny seeing Leo actually get the memo. Like he was kind of breaking the fourth wall in a way cuz like the way Leo was imitating the Krang was literally how we as the audience thought. Like we always thought like wow, the Krang talk dumb, and Leo even said it himself when he imitated them. So that was pretty good. This dumb shield guy, can he just die already? There. But yeah, so that was a pretty funny moment in the show. Or that episode, I should say. Oh, actually, another episode. This episode's actually it was really dark, and I love it for it. The Darkest Plight from season 4. So this episode like took place like right after the previous episode where Shredder first mutated himself into the Super Shredder. And when him and Splinter fell into the Undercity, Splinter actually saw visions of the Rat King. Which, for those of you who don't know, the Rat King is basically this. Well, in the 2012 show, Rat King started out as a regular crazy doctor, but then he mutated with a rat and became like a mutant rat who had the ability to telepathically communicate with any rat, including Master Splinter, because Master Splinter is a rat. And Rat King was basically one of Splinter's most worst enemies, other than Shredder. And Splinter was like, you could tell he was like traumatized or something by what the Rat King did to him when he was still alive, because he saw visions of the Rat King, and like it was pretty crazy stuff because like Splinter was like mentally going insane when talking to this vision of the Rat King. And then when he finally got his act together and realized it was all an illusion, he actually found the Rat King's corpse. And like the fact that they actually showed this in a cartoon is crazy. Like his bones were sticking out of his body. It was like literally a skull. Like you saw his skull, you saw his clothes, his bones were like, I think it was like his ribs were like sticking out of his body. And like the fact that Nickelodeon actually showed that is crazy. Cause like we've never, like Ninja Turtles was always pretty a lighthearted show. Like there was crazy moments, pretty dark moments, but there was never like blood or anything. But this time, granted there was no blood, but the fact that they actually showed a dead body on screen, like they didn't even like partially show it, they full on thing, was pretty crazy. So that was a pretty dark episode, like seeing Splinter go insane, seeing a corpse, and then while all this is going on, the Turtles are trying to find Splinter by going into the Undercity themselves, while also fighting against Shredder's forces, and Shredder is just mopping the floor with them because of his new mutation. Like Shredder broke Splinter's foot before he fell into the Undercity, and Shredder literally tried to squish Leonardo to death. Like he how did it happen? He knocked Leo out first of all, and then when Leo was on the ground, Shredder picked him up by the sides of his arms and was like squishing him together, like practically almost killing him. And if it wasn't for April and Karai jumping in, Leo probably wouldn't have even survived that. Which is crazy to think about, like how there were so many characters on like the verge of dying in this episode, which I think is why it's called the Darkest Plight, because like it was one of the darkest episodes in this show's running time. Like it was really crazy. Honestly, I feel like the Rat King really would have been a pretty cool villain if he actually showed up more than just 3 episodes. Or 4 episodes, I should say. Because, like, he first appeared in episode 6 of season 1, Monkey Brains, but that was before he mutated. Then he appeared again in season 1, when he first debuted as the Rat King. Then he came back in season 2, with a new plan to take control of Splinter's mind and take over the human race. And then he appeared as just a simple illusion in season 4, and that was it. But I feel like he could have been a pretty cool villain if he showed up more than just those episodes. I mean, like, not that he's not a cool villain, but he would have been scarier if he actually attempted to control Splinter on more than just 2 occasions. But sadly, they didn't utilize Rat King that much in this show. I think in the other iterations, though, he was a more consistent villain. I think he actually teamed up with Shredder in the 1987 cartoon. I think. I could be wrong. Actually, another villain who would have been pretty cool if he showed up more than literally 1 episode, Hattori Tatsu. Now, Tatsu, basically, he was actually from the original 1990 Ninja Turtles live-action movie, but he appeared in the show as well. And, like, he only appeared in the 1 episode, what was the episode called? The Forgotten Swordsman. When Karai was looking for the Kuro Kabuto at the same time as the Cult of Shredder and the Turtles. And, like, he wanted to take the Kuro Kabuto so he can be head of the Foot Clan. And he was a pretty tough villain. Like, he was beating the Turtles up pretty bad and stuff. And I feel like he would have been a pretty cool villain if he was in more than just 1 episode, which is why in my alternate season 5, he appears in 2 episodes instead of 1. Because, like, he's a pretty cool villain. I mean, granted, his ghost does appear in End Times, but that was like a brief cameo, if anything. It wasn't really that special. But he was definitely a pretty cool villain. I think, anyway. Uh-oh. All the other turtles are getting taken out one by one. I just lost Raph, and Donnie's about to die, too. Uh-oh. Well, I'm on my own now. I'm on my own, fighting. Actually, you know who else is a pretty cool villain who, again, well, he came back and he was in 2 episodes. Well, actually, no, I mean, well, okay, actually, I stand corrected. Maybe he shouldn't have come back. But he's still a pretty cool villain. Ho Chan. Now, granted, this was basically a crossover with the Ninja Turtles and Big Trouble in Little China, the movie, where basically a sorceress named Ho Chan escaped like a magic dagger and like controlled the turtles and the purple dragons to do his bidding, forcing Donnie and Casey to work together. I mean, he was only like a little ghost character, but he was still a pretty cool villain, I'd say. Like, I feel like he should have came back. Maybe. Well, no, he did come back. I'm dumb. Like the stuff that he was doing, like controlling them to have these like element powers. It was pretty cool. Alrighty, but with that, I'm going to leave it there for this video. I got second place. If I had survived 2 more, actually, I think 40 might actually be the max. So I almost got to the end of survival mode for the dojo. But alrighty, I've been recording for a while now, so I'll leave it there for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.